What's going on, everybody? It's time for episode 3 of Cover 2 Cash for the 2026 season. We are doing some more fun stuff as we're counting down to the NFL preseason, which kicks off a week from tomorrow. Actually, I think two weeks from tomorrow, as we'll have the Hall of Fame game with the Panthers and the Cardinals. I know people are salivating for some football. It's time for a new season. So in the meantime, we're just going to give you a little bit of football entertainment with some fun little facts like we have done, players that we've liked and things along that sort. And today, our show is 20 players that we are all in on for 2026. And with that being said, back from a week hiatus, ladies and gentlemen, it is Bobby from Bobby's Big Board. What is going on, Bobby?
What is going on, everybody? I'm so happy to be back. I hate I missed the show last week, but I am excited to talk ball, as I always am. Just sending out some stuff to some people, just promoting the show a little bit. But yeah, I'm excited. There's a lot of players that we have strong opinions on. You'll see videos like this all over the internet where it's like guys that we're higher on than anybody else. And that's exactly this format. Justin's picked 10 players that he's super high on for this season and 10 guys that I am pretty high on as well. Some guys that are a little bit sleepers, some of them that are, definitely up and comers for sure. But yeah, I'm just super excited to talk about it. And man, you just reminded me before we came on the show that preseason starts in just, not even 2 weeks away. So I'm super excited about that as well.
It's the countdown. Bobby's been churning out some videos a little late in the year. The man's had a lot going on, but when you have kids and you got a life, there's stuff you got to take care of. So that's obviously takes precedent over sports content. So that makes perfect sense. His kids are young. When you're old like me, they're older, but when you're that age, your kids are how old are they?
I got a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old.
You see? So he's just getting started. I'm on the retirement tour. But speaking of retirement, I don't know why that's a segue. Bobby, this is our 20 players. 20 players. Folks. You know some of them. You don't know some of them. Depends how much you like the game of football, but we are here to talk about all of them. Why don't you get us started with our very first one?
Absolutely. So we'll go ahead and get into the first one, and I think this is a pretty obvious one. It's Luther Burden III. I know you're not a big Bears guy, but, I mean, I've wrote up some notes on all of these players. 2.69 yards per route run was the best by any rookie since 2016. Once they got him the ball, once he started starting in games, he was just blowing up for the Bears. And obviously with DJ Moore gone, a guy that kind of resembles Luther Burden in a lot of ways, I think this coaching staff for the Chicago Bears, soon to be the Indiana Bears, I guess, or wherever they're moving to, they're going to use him in a lot of creative ways, and I am super all in on Luther Burden.
Yeah, I've said it multiple times on the show, he was my wide receiver 1 in last year's draft. I know it's heresy considering I'm wearing a Packers hat, and I should be thrilled that the Packers took a receiver in round 1. And we're going to wait and see on Golden this year. But I really like Luther Burden a lot. I think he's the best receiver on this football team. I think he's better than Rome Odunze. And I think if the Bears are smart, and we'll see how Ben Johnson does, he's very innovative with his offense. We saw a stretch there where DJ Moore or Rome Odunze was out, and DJ Moore and Luther Burden picked up the slack very well. But now DJ Moore is gone, so we're going to see if he's going to be wide receiver 2 or 1. The Bears have really good options on their offensive side of the football. Colston Loveland was the best tight end in the draft last year as well. The Bears absolutely hit a home run with offensive skill players. They're still a little lacking, I think, in the backfield, but DeAndre Swift did have his best season ever under Ben Johnson. There was a little familiarity. But Luther Burden is a very, very, very good player. He's a very dangerous player. Let's just see what the Bears are going to do this year. Like I said, I'm all about consistency and being able to prove it year over year. When you go from worst to first, because this is the most hyped team in the NFL in the offseason. It's not up for discussion. Yeah. Every day for the past 6 months, I've had to see that highlight over K'Zion Nixon, which is also, throwing over a mediocre corner. But we're going to see if you're able to sustain it. We'll see. And if they, like I said, over and over, if the Bears do it, I'll back off. But I
Yeah,
don't know.
we kind of have, and you've proven to do this. You weren't a big believer in Indiana last year across the college football playoffs, and they just had to show you because I was in the same boat with you. They went
Yeah.
through the whole playoff. They beat the who's who and came out with a national championship. So now we can't really, hate on Indiana that much anymore. But with Luther Burden, I want to say one more thing about him. Rome Odunze is a very talented wide receiver. I don't think the Bears are going to put him in a situation to be super fantasy relevant. I don't like X wide receivers that are just prototypical X wide receivers that don't move around that much. And the Bears aren't going to use him all around the field like they're going to use Luther Burden. Luther Burden can be played at any position, X, Y, or Z. And slot as well. He's just super dangerous everywhere. But I want to introduce something that we're doing because we all know Justin's a big betting guy. He's going to be able to hit you on a lot of bets, make you some money throughout the season. We are now kind of going over some of the betting lines. A lot of these players, unfortunately, it's super early. Preseason hasn't even started yet. So a lot of these players aren't going to have lines yet. But the ones that do, we'll go over and kind of give our opinions. For Luther Burden, receiving yards set at 750 yards, 750 and a half yards. He finished with 652 last year in a limited role. I really have a hard time seeing the under on this one. What do you think?
Well, the line's at minus 137, so you're seeing a lot of money coming in on the over. Like you said, when you finish very strongly, that's not an uncommon thing to do. I don't know. I think that if I was to place money on this, I think I would go, the talent tells me over, but just not knowing how much they're going to throw it to Loveland makes that line kind of maybe. I would probably go a little bit on the under because the value, getting plus points. I think that's a really good season for NFL wide receivers, 750 yards, even though we have, for a second-year player. Mind you, it's such a small sample size, so I like to see when it comes – if I was to bet futures on wide receivers or running backs, I'd like to have at least a full year's worth of work before I'm able to really kind of feel it out. And he wasn't able to get on the field earlier in the season when DJ Moore was there and things along that. He's going to have his opportunities, but I think Colston Loveland's going to be the guy that eats in this offense the most. I mean, we saw it with Ben Johnson doing it with Sam Laporta when he was in Detroit. I'll take slightly the under. I would take the under on this one.
And I want to give a shout out to one of your Green Bay Packers who has a very similar skill set to Luther Burden, Jaden Reed. Because when you say something 750 yards is a pretty good season for a receiver with his skill set, Jaden Reed is a guy over the past 3 seasons. Obviously, he was hurt last year. But when he's been healthy, is sitting around that 800-yard mark. So, yeah, it's definitely a good line. I'm probably leaning the over just because I'm all in on the Bears. And he's a player that I'm all in on. I could easily see 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns in this offense if they keep cooking like they did last year. But let's go ahead and go into your first player. Surprise, surprise, Alabama Crimson Tide alumni. Bryce Young. How are you feeling about Bryce Young and what makes you all in on this player?
So we've seen slow, steady climbing with Bryce. I've always liked his composure as a quarterback. When they played at Alabama and he was at Texas on the road in tough environment, the game was really, really close on the road. They pulled out the win. Goes into Auburn, has to go 90-something yards to win the game, does that. Won the national championship on the 2010 or 2020 team. There's steady progression. There's mental aspects of Bryce games that I like more than a lot of quarterbacks. Now, I know he's undersized for your stereotypical NFL quarterback, and there's a lot of people that just love to give this guy a bunch of crap, but he wasn't picked number 1 overall for a reason. He did win the Heisman Trophy for a reason. When you do those two things, that's usually a catalyst to get things going. But when you do it in the SEC, I think you've got a leg up. So he went into a situation – terrible coaching, terrible ownership, terrible roster. Last year they won the South. They're my pick to win the South again next year. I was on a show with ETOF Sports yesterday. We went over the NFC South. I've got 2 teams from the NFC South making the playoffs. As crazy as that sounds to make sentences to make out loud, but that's what I believe between the Saints and the Panthers. But I think that Bryce Young is in a contract season as well. He's going to get Ted McMillan the football I like what they got at running back. Their offensive line's improved. Everything looks good. I think Bryce Young is going to have himself a hell of a season. It's do or die. This is it for him. I think that 4,000 yards is on the books for him. As crazy as that sounds, this is my hot stuff with him. Every once in a while you see a team that does something that you're not expecting. So,
yeah. And, honestly, you're obviously super big into just this Carolina Panthers team, because we'll talk about another Carolina Panther here in a little bit that you also picked. I think Bryce Young, the team is slowly getting better and better. I like their first round pick with Freeling, the tackle out of Georgia. Chris Brazzell in the third round I thought was great value as well. Just a really big, fast receiver out of Tennessee. Obviously, we had one of those last year as well that didn't really pan out for the Raiders thus far. But I don't know, man. Bryce Young really, and this isn't an insult to Bryce Young, but I don't know if you remember Josh Freeman back in
Sure.
the mid 2000s. That's kind of what Bryce Young is kind of giving me in terms of just his production. And once I see him, I don't want to give him too much criticism because he has had nothing to work with. He's had a bad offensive line. He's had Chuba Hubbard as his best, running back over his whole career. So we kind of have to see him with a decent roster first. And I don't know if it's this year yet. And I think he's going to be one of those quarterbacks where the Panthers are going to move on from him and he's going to go somewhere else and succeed, kind of like a Baker Mayfield, because I do agree with you on his mental processing, his mental makeup as a person as well. I do really enjoy him as a person. So I think he's got the mental to succeed in the NFL. He just has to have the players and the personnel to do it as well. So I do like this pick. I just think it's going to be on another team that's not the Panthers. But let's talk about the betting lines, because we have all the betting lines for this guy. I love some of these. Others I'm kind of on the fence about. Passing yards, 3,125.5. Passing touchdowns, 20.5. And rushing yards, 275.5. I'm going to have to look at his rushing lines while you kind of tell us your thoughts on this. I want to see what he's done over the past few years, because that seems a little low.
Well, he's not a super elusive quarterback. He doesn't do a whole lot of running. But as far as passing, that would be – I think he can hit the over with that, with Jalen Coker in there. I think they picked up John Mechie, so that's another familiar target with him. I like what the Panthers are going to do. It's just the one team that jumps out and they're going to have this season. Everybody has that team that surprises you out of nowhere and just comes out and does great. I mean, the Bears weren't supposed to arrive that quickly, and they went out there and had themselves a season. Dave Canales is a good offensive coach. I like their running backs are just average, but I think defensively they got enough to keep them in the game. Offensively, I think he can throw over 20 touchdowns. I think he throws for 3,500, 30 touchdowns. I'm going to say 30 touchdowns. I think he's going to really light it up this year. The rushing yards, it's so hard for me I would never bet on quarterback rushing yards because of all the sacks that they take. Those counts as negative yards of rushing. And the offense for the Panthers doesn't exactly call for quarterback runs, so I would take the under there.
So one correction, college counts for negative yards for sacks, not in the NFL. But nonetheless, he has never hit this line in his 3 years. His career high in a season is 253. But note, in 2024, he had 6 rushing touchdowns. So he does have a little bit of wheels to him. I mean, he showed that at Alabama a decent amount. But it's kind of weird to me. 2025 was like a year for Bryce. He still threw 23 touchdowns last year. So passing touchdowns, I'm feeling pretty good on. He hasn't hit the passing yards line yet. I think the one clear over I would see here is the passing yards. I just need to see what Dave Canales is going to do with this guy and show why he's a first overall pick, because he's obviously got the talent to do it. So I just need to see it. He won the most games last year that he's ever had in a season. He threw the most yards, most touchdowns, best interception percentage. We just need to see more from him, and I hope he continues to get better, because I'm tired of all these franchises saying, hey, we need a quarterback that's at least 6'4". We've seen guys like Baker Mayfield do it. Kyler Murray even had some great seasons as well. So I can't wait to see what Bryce Young does in this offense. I'm excited for them for sure. But segue into this guy, one of my favorite backs in the NFL that just didn't get a lot of work last year because of Ramondre Stevenson, but later as the year went on, he got utilized more and more and more, and he averaged 21 fantasy points when in the 4 games without Ramondre Stevenson. Now, we need to see if he's a standalone starter. I think he is. He was my RB2 behind Genty last year in that draft class with all the great running backs. So I think TreVeyon Henderson is the real deal. I think the Patriots are going to utilize him more and more this year since Ramondre Stevenson was just average again last year. What do you think about TreVeyon? I know you had some pushback last year whenever I kept putting him on the start over and over. Sometimes they hit, sometimes they didn't because of the inconsistent usage. When you saw the usage, he popped off. So how do you feel about him, and do you think Ramondre is still going to be a thorn in the side for TreVeyon Henderson owners?
I think it's still Ramondre's backfield. They paid that man a lot of money, and when you pay players, you don't put them on the bench. The best example of this was Najee Harris. You know, in Pittsburgh, they either, if they pay you or you got high draft capital, you're going to play the game. General managers would rather lose 17 games than have egg on their face about missed draft picks. I swear it's some kind of crippling disease with some of these GMs when it comes to certain things like this. There's a ton of explosiveness. I think secretly, and nobody's ever said it or can disprove it, but my take is I don't know if he's got a grasp on the offense and it comes to pass pro. I think that's the one thing that's kind of holding him back, because if you can't pass pro in this league, you're not going to get the snaps no matter how electric you are in the backfield. I think New England's got a two-headed monster here, but I still think it's a 60-40 Ramondre because he got hot in the playoffs. I mean, he was cooking at the end of the season last year. And when he doesn't fumble the football, he's really, really good. Like, Ramondre Stevenson gets a lot of grief from Patriot fans, but he's not the worst option that's out there. He falls forward. He runs hard. He runs aggressively. It just last year he had the fumble, and then, you know, Mike Vrabel didn't pull him. You know, he didn't pull him. To his credit, he let him play through it and stuck his guns. I think that it's still Ramondre's for one more season.
So I'm going to tell you kind of the splits from last year. So TreVeyon, 180 attempts, 911 yards, 9 touchdowns. Ramondre played in 14 games, so he did play in 3 less games. 130 attempts, 603 yards, and 7 touchdowns. So if you do the math there, it's about a 50-50 split between the two. Now, obviously, TreVeyon was more efficient when he got touches than Ramondre, but that is a big question. You invested an early second-round pick in TreVeyon Henderson with the contract that you're paying Ramondre. I feel like everybody saw the success with the Detroit Lions they had when they had Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, and people are trying to replicate that. But for a lot of running backs, that doesn't work in terms of both of them being fantasy relevant like Montgomery and Gibbs were. I think TreVeyon is so insanely talented that he is a Gibbs-like player. That's how high I am on him. He just needs to catch the football more, and they need to throw it to him more. But TreVeyon is that guy in my head, and we're going to go ahead and look at his lines real quick. So all of these are higher. So people, the betting, the odds makers are making these lines all higher than what he did last year, which makes me feel like they have some sort of knowledge that's saying he's going to play more. So 1,050.5 yards, which isn't hard to do if you're playing at least a 70% snap share, which I don't know if that's going to happen. He had 9 touchdowns last year. 10.5 is the line this year. And then he had around this last year, not quite 325 yards, I don't think, but right there. I don't know how I feel. I feel like the talent is there all the way. I don't trust the coaching staff of the Patriots all that well. But if I'm betting on the talent, I'm probably betting the over, at least on the rushing lines.
I'm going under on all 3 of these. Like I said, it's just due to snap share. It's under everything, especially the touchdowns. I like even odds there. So that's my favorite bet on the board here. They're favoring the over slightly for 1,000 yards in an 18-game season. That's very feasible to do. It's not a super aggressive mark, but that means that he's going to have to take the snap count. We just don't know. I like the unders here.
Yeah, that's fair for sure. If he does get 70% of the snap share, I think he crushes all of these. But that's the only question we have here. Is Rhamondre going to be that annoying for TreVeyon Henderson owners? I just don't know just yet. But here is a player that we think we both put him as the most improved player. Like, we think he's going to smash everything he did last year. Obviously, he didn't have that great of a rookie season, but he was playing with literally nobody. How do you feel about the Titans' Cam Ward quarterback, and how do you think he's going to do this year since you're all in on him in fantasy?
Well, not only that, just the mental aspect of his game at Miami and then seeing him come and really, really take abuse last year. And I think that it's somewhat beneficial in a way that he got that first season under his belt, because I don't think he's going to be ruined by any stretch of the imagination. They've definitely improved this team overall compared to last year's dumpster fire. They're still got Tony Pollard in the backfield, so we're just going to see how effectively they're going to run the football. But wide receivers, I think that they got a pretty solid core. They got Tate with that first pick. I think Ridley's back, and they got Brian Daboll. So I like the experience there with the coaching. I think he's a huge help to the coaching staff, especially for a quarterback and running an offense. That's what Daboll does best. We've talked about how he's had a short leash, but I do like Cam Ward this upcoming season. I think the Titans improve, and things are trajectorying north.
And we talked about this last time when we did all of our questions, how low-key good this Titans room is, this wide receiver room. Carnell Tate, who I'm not in love with, but they just invested heavy draft capital. A lot of people are really, really excited about Carnell Tate. Wan'Dale Robinson, who just had 1,000 yards last year, really productive on a really bad Giants team. Calvin Ridley, who has been a wide receiver one in the past. Then you've got Elik Eomanor, who we both love. Shamir DK, who is I think he broke the single season all-purpose yards record last year, quietly. Nobody's talking about that. Shamir DK went crazy last year. Punt, kickoff returns, all of that. I think he broke the NFL record last year, which is insane. All of those guys, then Xavier Restrepo, which nobody's talking about anymore since last year. But all of these guys, I think the offensive line slightly good. But the main thing I want to talk about, especially with quarterbacks, is they are such a focused position where Cam Ward is going to have all this attention on him. And if he makes a bad throw, the whole fan base is going to hate him. It's a really hard position to be in for a quarterback mentally. Cam Ward, I have no worries about him consistently just being mentally sound. He's already a great leader. If you watch any of the behind-the-scenes stuff for the Titans, he is mentally just a strong leader. He's not taking any crap from any of his players, even if they win, and he's always taking accountability. He's a great young leader, and as long as he gets a good roster under his belt, I think he can succeed really well because he has all the tools. So for the lines, we don't have rushing yards. That's a weird line to have for Cam Ward. But weirdly enough, his lines for passing yards are higher than Bryce Young, which, if you can believe that. Obviously, the passing touchdowns are a little bit lower. I'm trying to see exactly what the stats were last year. 3,100 yards, 15 touchdowns, 7 picks. He played in 17 games. How do you feel about these lines? I kind of feel good at least about one of them. 3,300 in today's NFL is pretty solid, at least for a quarterback that's playing a whole year. How do you feel about these lines?
I think he can go over on the yards and the touchdowns. They're improved offensively with the coaching alone. So you got that, plus you got a year under your belt, so you're going to see improvement. He didn't look lousy. He looked pretty good for what he had. He's a smart football player, takes good throws, does really well against cover two. I mean, I just like what Cam Ward's about. Reason that guy was number one overall. The Titans did not miss on that pick, even though it wasn't a very popular thing compared to some of the other players in a kind of a mid-class, but great player. Mentally, he's right. He's all about football. Titans got a cornerstone of the future there.
Yeah, and you know what? I love a lot of the things that this guy put on tape. Guys, Cam Ward breakdown will come probably before the start of the NFL season. He'll probably be one of the only quarterback breakdowns I talk about before the season starts because I loved what this dude put on tape. Fun fact, if you guys had him in fantasy last year, you understand how much pain you had. I understand. He had 1 touchdown or less in every single game until week 13, Justin. From week 13 to week 17, he had 4 games of 2+ touchdowns, which he had not done since before week 13. He really ended the season strong, and I think he was really getting his stride. We know how hard it is to play NFL football at the quarterback position, at least, especially when you had that play calling and just that roster around you. Yeah. I really like Daboll. I know he didn't do the best in terms of, bringing out the most in Daniel Jones, and it kind of made him look really bad when he goes to the Colts and starts balling out. But he did make Josh Allen who he is today. He was the offensive coordinator when Josh Allen was just this small kid from, well, he's not small, but he was this guy from Wyoming that didn't really know how to throw a football that well. Daboll molded him into the MVP quarterback he is now. I think he can do something with Cam Ward and especially hit the over on the passing touchdowns. I feel that easily happens. 20 touchdowns in the NFL now as a full-time quarterback is pretty easy to do, and I like the talent with Cam Ward. But next, my most improved player when we did our show last, Marvin Harrison Jr. This has got to be the year where this guy pops off. If he doesn't, I drop him. I'm never going to. It's like Kyle Pitts last year. If Kyle Pitts underperformed last year, I would never be on the train again. He broke my heart too many times. Marvin Harrison's on that list this year. If he underwhelms, he doesn't give me 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns, he's not going to be on my radar for fantasy anymore. I believe in the talent. I believe in the film. I broke him down on my channel months and months back. I love what he puts on tape. We just need to see him actually have production. How do you feel about Marvin Harrison coming into the 2026 season?
Well, it's like you said, but I don't think the blame fully rides on him. I mean, they got a new head coach in there that's definitely offensive-minded in LaFleur, so that's going to help substantially. But the Cardinals still haven't decided what they're going to do at quarterback. Is it going to be Gardner Minshew? Is it going to be Carson Beck? Is it going to be Brissett? We're going to have to wait and find out. I think that this isn't a lack of talent. I think it's a lack of opportunity here. I wouldn't be on the boat that you are of dropping him if it's not the case. I think he'd still be a hold for another season, depending on how the things play out. If you start seeing LaFleur's offense flourish like his brothers does in Green Bay or Shanahan or something along those lines, it'd be worth holding. He's a buy or low candidate right now because of the quarterback, but I think there's some great talent there. It's just been a grind down here in Phoenix for these teams. I think he's a hold. I still think he's wide receiver 1.
Yeah, you would hope so, but you've got Trey McBride there who's eating up so many touches. Michael Wilson, who, hey, he was a top 4 wide receiver in points per game when he was on that stretch. I mean, he was on pace for an insane amount of yards. So it wasn't like the offense was struggling. Brissett was a top 5 quarterback in yards per game when he was cooking. So, like, Marvin Harrison just wasn't getting any of that work. They were going to other players in the offense. So that's the main thing I'm worried about. If the offense flourishes, we've seen it flourish in the past, and 2 other people are getting it before him. That's the main thing I'm worried about. But I will say, I think he's got triple-digit target potential. He's one of the highest graded prospects at wide receiver that we've ever seen. Obviously, great bloodline with his father. We just need to see it. And the lines for Marvin Harrison, very interesting. You tell me how you feel about these. 825.5 yards on the receiving yards, 5.5 receiving touchdowns, which let me look and see if he's hit that before. I know he hit it in his rookie season.
I think that the over is going to hit on the receiving touchdowns. I think that they're going to find a way to feed him the football. If they don't, they're going to get publicly disgruntled. This is a thing that happens in the league. I like the line on that over plus 125. Can he get 6 touchdowns? Yes. There's zero doubt. I think also, there might have been there may have been something privately between him and Garrett and Jonathan Gannon, and the team kind of checked out on the head coach last year and just started letting the reins be offensively. Is how I feel about it. Like I said, LaFleur's scheme, I'm gonna go with overs on both of these things. I think he can have 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns. Give me the overs on both of these.
And this line is crazy to me on the receiving touchdowns. He had 8 as a rookie. He started 12. He was in 12 games. He appeared in 12 games last year. So like 60% of the season, 4 touchdowns. I don't know. I mean, I've got all my odds from DraftKings. This is insane. I would smash the over, especially on the receiving touchdowns. On the receiving yards, I don't know. I really believe he's a 1,000-yard receiver. We just haven't seen it yet. But we'll go to your player, which is the other Carolina Panther that you were talking about, or I was talking about earlier, Jonathan Brooks, who's a guy that we've seen basically none of since being drafted pretty highly. He was the second-round pick in 2023. He had tore his ACL. He was out for the whole 2024 season. 2025 comes around. He plays for like 3 games, doesn't really show too much, and then he tears his ACL again. And, I mean, a guy that's got multiple ACL tears, that's somebody that I'm going to be scared of for sure. But how do you feel about Jonathan Brooks? And do you think he's a guy that's really going to pop off this year with all the people that are in this offense?
Yes. I believe because there's low mileage on him. It's not like he's got a zillion carries. He didn't have a lot of carries in Texas. And he got injured in the preseason last year. So he's been, and I don't know if it was the same leg. Was it the same leg? I'm not certain that it was.
It was the same ACL, yes.
Okay, so when you've got a reconstructive tear like that, this time it's going to be basically, we're going to find out. He'll have a full year of recovery. He didn't put any miles on it prior to the recovery before, if you think about it. So it's like he tore it and then he tore it again. So it's almost like a freak thing. I think that this guy is going to take over the job midseason. I think that you're going to see a lot of good stuff from him. He's my candidate for comeback player of the year, even though he's never really had a season to come back from.
Yeah.
I think he's going to take the job from Chuba Hubbard eventually. I do. I think he's got the talent. He's explosive. He makes great plays, but just the injuries have been there, and that's obviously why everybody's ready to pump the brakes. Could be a late round steal in your redraft leagues. I like Brooks.
So I will say I got my timelines mixed up a little bit. He played in 2024, tore his stuff again, did not play at all last year. So right. He's coming off. That's an even worse timeline in my opinion because he hasn't played football in pretty much 2 years now. So we're just gonna have to see how he rehabs. Obviously, like I said, for people that have a lot of uncertainty, you're not going to see any lines available. But when we have players that just don't have lines available, I think the best way to just kind of get some conversation going is, what do you think the expectations are for Jonathan Brooks? Is he a guy that you think could get 300, 400 rushing yards this season?
Give me 500 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns. Maybe 200 receiving yards. I don't think receiving is really going to be his thing, but you just never know. Dave Canales loves to check it down. Can he be Rashad White for him? We'll see.
Yeah, I don't really know exactly how to feel about Jonathan Brooks because, well, honestly, they don't have a ton of options outside of Chuba Hubbard. Let me see who they signed just to make sure I'm not missing anybody. But yeah, Chuba Hubbard, Jonathan Brooks, and Trevor Etienne, who was one of my lowest graded running backs of that class last year. Trevor Etienne was just not he did everything like below average in college. So it's him and Jonathan Brooks. Obviously, they have A.J. Dillon, but he's coming off a neck injury. I don't even know if he'll make the team. So, yeah, Chuba and Jonathan Brooks, that's the guys in this offense. So Chuba Hubbard's a big buy for me just because we saw what he did in 2024. Jonathan Brooks, he has the opportunity, though. He has the opportunity to come out here and easily be the RB2. We saw how easily they moved on from Chuba Hubbard last year when Rico Dowdle was, going hard. So if we just get a couple good games from Jonathan Brooks, he could easily be the RB1 in this offense. So he's a big-time coin flip that doesn't really cost you that much in fantasy drafts. But here's a guy I had to take from you. I'm a big Tyler Warren guy. I just am. I think Tyler Warren is the superior tight end when it comes to all facets of the tight end game. But Colston Loveland is a guy that's he's going high in the drafts just because of how strong he finished last year. Cole Kmet was kind of the guy at tight end over the first, 40% of the season. Then Colston came along and was just really cooking hard. And I think Colston Loveland could be the 1A, 1B with Rome Odunze being the second, the third man out here. Colston Loveland's that good. I've been looking at a lot of his film lately, and I'm really impressed with what I see, at least from the route running and the hands. So how do you feel about Colston Loveland? Obviously, we've talked about him, and we kind of agree on how good he is. But any sentiments you want to add for Colston Loveland going into the 2026 season?
He'll be a top 5 tight end. There's zero doubt about it. The Bears have picked great skill players, and the offense, like I said, when Ben Johnson was in Detroit, he did it all through Laporta, but Loveland's way better than Sam Laporta, in my opinion. So I think that there's a reason he went in the first round, his top 10 pick. All the talent's there, and they proved that they can get him the football last year. I think Cole Kmet's going to be out the door after this season, or he's going to take a pay cut. I think that he's the starter by a metric mile here. Ben Johnson's offense doesn't require a lot of blocking from your tight ends. It's get open in those short routes, or sometimes they'll do a slot fade, and he's fast enough and tall enough to get the plays done. I think he's going to have a sensational season this year. He's going to be one of the top 5 tight ends in the league.
Yeah, and he had a great.
You know how much it pains me to talk great about Bears players? Like, I quietly do it because I'm objective and I'm a sports bettor and I know how things work, but I'm not oblivious to talent, even though people have just been going after me for my Caleb takes. They think I'm just hating, but with this guy, there's no doubt you'd love to have him anywhere and almost starting on almost any team in the NFL. I can think of a ton of places that would love to have him.
Well, as a Packers fan, now obviously I'm saying just next year, do you prefer a Colston Loveland to a guy like Tucker Kraft, who's probably going to start on the PUP list?
Well, that's the thing.
Even though
if you're talking
Kraft just went crazy last year when he played.
Well, people forget because they want to hype up Caleb Williams. They forget that Green Bay got banged up last season. They were without Jaden Reed almost the whole year. Christian Watson missed time. Tucker Kraft had a season-ending injury. Devontae White had a season-ending injury. Micah Parsons has a season-ending injury. Like, this team had great players miss time, and they still made the playoffs. A healthy Tucker Kraft, a healthy Colston Loveland, they could be the same player. They could be the same player. I like Kraft a little more because he's bigger on the inside and runs a little more aggressive than Loveland does, and that's kind of my kind of football. But I'm not going to knock this player one bit. I won't. Even though he went to Michigan.
Great pick, too, by the Green Bay Packers. Look, it's really hard, guys. If there's a Crimson Tide football player in front of him or a Green Bay Packer in front of him, he is a tried and true fan, and he's going to pick that Packer every day of the week. It is a big deal for us to hear Colston Loveland and Tucker Kraft could be the same player in terms of production. Because I love Tucker Kraft, man. That was a great pick. He was – who's the other guy? I got his face in my mind that played – that y'all drafted in like the second round that just didn't end up really being – there you go, Luke Musgrave. You can just see the difference. Kraft was just a hungry monster that demanded targets, and he was just so physical and athletic when he got the ball. I see the same sort of thing in Colston Loveland. That's a good shout. But let's go ahead and move on to his lines, which are interesting for sure. He had 6 touchdowns last year, 713 yards. The lines are just a little bit higher now, 775.5 yards and 5.5 receiving touchdowns. I feel pretty good about the 5.5 receiving touchdowns, especially in this offense. The receiving yards, it's tough to get 800 yards as a tight end. Just the position is just so volatile with its targets. But how do you feel about both of these lines? I feel like you're an over on both of these.
I am more so on the yards than the touchdowns, because he doesn't appear to be like a red zone target in that offense. As wild as that seems to be, the Bears kind of spread it out. I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, the over, I would bet if I had over minus 120, under 100. Oh, man, I feel like that's the right number. It could be 5 or it could be 6. It's something I wouldn't play, but I do think he's got over 775. I think he's going to be world-class tight end season, like I said. Really, really talented player. He's up there with Trey McBride and Brock Bowers and Tucker Kraft, and just I think he's amazing. So, and I don't like to talk good about Bears and Michigan players, but
yeah, he double dips in like your least favorite things ever. And
that's okay.
he's look. I really think he can do something special. So
yes.
I'm like on the other end. I think the receiving touchdowns easy peasy. You're thinking receiving yards and not receiving touchdowns. So it's interesting how bettors think. But here's an interesting one that we both completely agree with, and it's Deshaun Watson, mainly because we've seen what Deshaun Watson can do. Now, when he's played for the Browns, he's been pretty horrible. He's been one of my least favorite quarterbacks to watch ever when he's been a Brown. But we've seen what he did in 2021 with the Texans. He went off and 4,800-yard season. Is he ever going to return to something even close to that? Because since all the legal stuff, he has not looked like the same player whatsoever. But I think he's the best quarterback that the Browns have.
I'm gonna agree with that part in full. There's a couple things here. We don't know everything that went on. Those allegations were so out of control.
Yeah.
And then he signs that fully guaranteed deal, and the Browns aren't going to put him on the bench if he's healthy. I think he's a better quarterback than Shedeur Sanders. He's a veteran. And from what the things that I've seen with Deshaun in his off-season stuff, and it could just be, posting for whatever reason, because you can't just fully trust what you see, but he's kind of laying low, and he's put stuff out there that he's kind of focusing on the game. Yeah. I think he's working really hard on his comeback. I think he's serious about football. I think he's serious about coming out and having a good season. I think he's put the noise behind him. I know he got married. That'll kind of settle the winds behind your sails a little bit. Just go out there, make your money. Cleveland will embrace him if he starts winning football games. It's not rocket science, especially when you're the biggest gap in the roster as far as the salary cap goes.
Yeah.
If he just throws for 30, let's just say he throws for 3,500, 30 touchdowns.
That's good enough. Dude, they were praising Baker for doing less than that.
They'll put the Browns in the playoffs with that. It's a playoff team. They really got good players all over that roster. You like Harold Fannin, I like Harold Fannin. They got Judkins, they got Judy, they've got defensive studs everywhere. And they've got what's his name, the backup running back I kind of like a little bit from Tennessee. Yeah, so we'll just see. Like, I think that if Deshaun Watson plays solid football, he'll be the comeback player of the year for sure. I mean, Achilles injury,
two Achilles tears.
Like, if he's healthy, I think that he's locked in, and all the media pressure is going to be on Shedeur, not him. It's kind of the best thing the Browns did by drafting him. Like, you got a clown show there at your quarterback position.
Yeah.
But if he goes back to his talent for what he can do playing football, man, he's electric when he's on.
Yeah.
And we'll see.
You shouted out Jerry Jeudy and Harold Fannin, but I want to talk about there are two other wide receivers that they drafted in this draft, KC Concepcion out of Texas A&M and Denzel Boston out of Washington. I think Boston plays the X role here. I think KC is going to play the slot role. That moves Jeudy out to Z, which I like a lot better. And, we've seen Jeudy be a 1,400-yard receiver before. I think this receiving room is not bad. Harold Fannin is, a monster at the tight end position. People are really going to be put on notice if you weren't put on notice last year. So I like Deshaun Watson. If they put him out there, I think he can have some success. I am going to pump the brakes on Quinshon Judkins. I do not think he's as talented as people think. I think he's just going to be a Tony Pollard level runner. He's not the exact same type of runner as Tony Pollard, but that type of production range. He fell off a cliff in terms of his efficiency once he got some film on him, so that kind of scares me a lot. But we'll look at the lines. Wow, surprise. We don't even know if he's starting, so these sports books are not about to have any lines out there that people can take advantage of, because a lot of people are like, we don't know who's starting, because Dillon Gabriel, he put up better stats than Shedeur Sanders, even though Shedeur Sanders got more starts. He looked terrible for the most part outside of one game. Taylon Green is a big athletic freak. I don't think he's ready to start anywhere in the NFL right now, but he's a big, strong, fast quarterback. And then you got Deshaun Watson, who looked horrendous when he played last. So you've got a big question mark at the quarterback position. But if Deshaun is your guy, what are the expectations? You think 3,200, 25-ish touchdowns, something like that?
That's what I said a few minutes ago. 30 touchdowns. Yeah. I think 3,500 yards is a great season for the Browns. They're in the playoffs, and everybody shuts up.
Well, we'll have to see. What do you think? What do you think the Browns do if he goes out there and has a good season? You know, he's not a spring chicken anymore. He's 30. I don't have his age here.
We'll have to see. We'll just have to see how the team responds to him. I mean, they got a new head coach there. Stefanski's out, so we're gonna have to find out. You know, the Browns also got first-round picks in the upcoming draft, so they're kind of sitting on a winning precipice here, because they can opt out of Deshaun Watson's deal after this year, I believe. So I'd still take the abuse, but then you got generational draft coming up.
And the quarterback is a big part of that 2027 draft class. I don't know, man. I don't want the Browns to draft another quarterback just to ruin them, but we'll go ahead and move on to Kyle Monangai. I know you talked earlier about you thought that the running back room for the Bears just was I really like Kyle Monangai. He was a top 10 back for me last year in that last year's draft class coming out of Rutgers. I mean, he was, I want to say, a 6th-round pick for the Bears. I thought that was great value. I mean, he had so many solid games. He's explosive. He's powerful. I like a lot of the stuff that he put on tape last year. I may do a video on him before the season starts. We'll see. But Kyle Monangai, love him. I loved what he did in terms of production last year. I think Swift was decent at times. I think Kyle Monangai was more consistent once he got more touches later on in the season. How do you feel about Kyle Monangai? I think we kind of shared the hype on him out of Rutgers last year.
No, I was just more along the lines of the Bears got the most, in my opinion, the most average running back room in that division, and that includes Minnesota's.
Really?
Yeah, I don't. It's not. I'm not going to defend myself for how I feel about these players here, because I've praised 2 Bears already, but this here is just not enough for me to really be on the train. So, split backfield with 2 very average running backs. He's a 6th-round pick for a reason.
7th round. I'll correct myself. He was 7th.
Okay. So there's 2 NFL players that were drafted by Rutgers in the 7th round that are playing in the NFL.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's as good as Pacheco. It just
really.
Yeah, I just don't it's just show me more. Show me more. Can't really buy or sell. Wouldn't be a player I'd want in fantasy. I think it's a 50-50 backfield in Chicago. The Bears aren't exactly the most fleet running football. It's all kind of goofy when it comes to who runs the ball there. I'm just kind of we don't know. It's too unpredictable. There's no steady diet you get a Taylor or a Gibbs or a Jacobs or something along those lines. It's just, for me, I got to see more.
Yeah, I think somewhere they run the ball a lot. They run the ball top 5 amount of times in the NFL. I think it's going to be about 200, maybe 180 carries apiece. for these running backs. And I think with that many carries, I think Kyle Monangai can be fantasy relevant. But this is what I am crazy about. He beat both of these lines last year by a considerable margin. Well, he had 5 touchdowns last year, almost 800 yards rushing. I like both of these lines. DraftKings lines right now, I feel like if you have a good read on players, I feel like you can make a lot of money with these season projections. I like it, at least the rushing yards. At least the rushing yards.
That's why it's minus 120 for the touchdowns, because it's a heavy favorite. There's no value in these lines, so I would stay away from everything in full. There's no betting advantages here. Minus 115, that juice is really high, and it's even across the board. He has to produce one way or the other. I don't know. It's really, like I said, it's really not knowing what the back – like, I think Ben Johnson does things – where you're going to see more situational football as opposed to, it's just something I would just avoid. It's just, I just don't have enough for me personally, I don't have enough feel for him to confidently go one way or the other, but gun to my head per se, figuratively speaking, I'm going to take under on the touchdowns. I would say maybe 4 or less, because of what they do, because they're so sporadic on the offense. Like, he might be throwing to tackles and all that garbage. Like, he just, but that's what he does. Like, he's throwing touchdown passes to Dan Skipper and Penei Sewell up there in Detroit. They don't do the same nonsense here. Run split T formation and give it to the water boy. So, which is exciting football, but I just don't like any of this. So I would say under on the touchdowns, maybe over on the rushing yards.
Okay. Well, now we move on to one of your favorite players in the NFL just because of the position he's in.
Hold on. We're going to take a little sponsorship
here. Go ahead.
We're talking about lines and overs and unders. Just so you guys know, there is some CFL football going on. We are in week 7 this week. I will have my picks posted tomorrow at winnable.com/JustinPaulSports. And here is a little preview of what to come.
We are playing Montreal in Montreal. Right. We are playing on the road. We are playing in a dome. We are playing in front of 65,000 screaming fans. Okay. Men, we got them right where we want them. We got them right where we want them.
And if you want to help out the show, I greatly appreciate that. We got 7 viewers right now. You can help me out by just going to the Venmo. I got a brand new microphone, so all that echo is gone. So I want to thank my donors. Thank you so much. You can ask questions in the chat. You can just shoot me a little tip. If you go over to Winnable, though, you can get all the CFL picks. Plus, next week I'm going to have an announcement for something that I got going on for the NFL season. I've got some monthly packages going on. So if you want to check that out, you got to tune in next week to cover 2 cash. But let's talk about the most polarizing quarterback, in my opinion, in the NFC North. I mean, people say the same thing about Jared Goff, but we kind of know what Goff is. You get pressure on him, he tends to struggle. With Jordan Love, Pro Football Focus is all over him. He's better than Caleb Williams at every single metric. But Caleb Williams is second coming of Christ in this division. So basically all the pressure is not on Jordan Love. Jordan Love had a season, he got injured last year. We had Malik Willis come in there and play really well. But Jordan Love does make some really smart throws. He was throwing touchdowns against the Bears defense to like 5th-string cornerbacks and Malik Heath. So I don't want to hear this nonsense that he's no good, because he's very, very, very good. He's a top 10 NFL quarterback by a metric mile. People just want to sleep on him for some reason. They want to pick on Green Bay because of how they finished the season, but don't want to put any context behind it. Great with play action. Remember, Jaden Reed was gone for the first 6 to 8 weeks of the season last year. Josh Jacobs was hobbling down at the end of the year. Tucker Kraft was out. Those things matter when you're doing statistics when it comes to the quarterback position. Jordan Love's going to have himself a great season. Some experts are even calling for an MVP type season.
I don't know if he's an MVP level quarterback. I don't love Jordan Love. I think he's fine. I think he's decent. I think he's around the 12. I feel the same way about Jordan Love as I do Brock Purdy. I think they're very similar in terms of skill set, but I like Brock Purdy's rushing ability more. I think Jordan Love is able to take a team to an NFC championship. I think he can do that. And I think he's efficient when he gets the ball, but and he's shown that. He's 8th in yards per attempt over his whole career, which is great. But he just offers very little in the rushing department. I think he averages about 16. That might be generous. Let me look. 15.7 fantasy points during the past 2 seasons, which is just not a needle mover for me. That's why I kind of stay away from him a lot of the times. But Jordan Love, if you're wanting a quarterback like a Goff, which I think Goff is better than Love, no offense, but Goff gets more production in the touchdown department, where Love he just hasn't had a season where he's had that 30-plus touchdown season. If he starts doing that, he's very young. He doesn't have that much he hasn't had that many starts. He's had about 3 years of starting so far. I need to see a great season from him. When you're a quarterback that's like a Jordan Love, you need to have like Burrow-level success in terms of throwing 40-plus touchdowns to be really fantasy relevant, and that's why I stay away from Jordan Love. But here are the lines. 3,525 passing yards, 24.5 passing touchdowns, and almost 300 rushing yards on the line. I do think he can hit the passing yards for sure. I don't know how I feel about the other lines. What do you think about these lines?
I think the touchdowns has the best value.
Really?
Touchdowns have the best value. I think that this is the year where the Packers are staying healthy the whole season. They've been beat up the last few seasons. This is the NFL. Kraft's going to miss. He's going to start on the PUP list. But you're going to have a healthy Christian Watson. I think he's finally due for a full healthy season. Jayden Reed is there for a full healthy season. We're going to see opportunities for Matthew Golden. We're going to see Josh Jacobs run the ball. He didn't get a receiving touchdown to super late in the season. The Packers are a run-heavy football team.
Yep.
But when Jayden Reed's in there, that's when you get those jet touch passes, and you can just get a cheap touchdown on the goal line with a jet sweep because it's considered a passing touchdown. I think 30 touchdowns is happening. The over, I think that's right about where he'll be at yards. He might get to 4,000. It just depends on the health. The rushing yards, he's not a rushing quarterback. And I like when quarterbacks aren't exactly rushing quarterbacks. I do, because rushing the football as a quarterback is something that just is either a big part of your game or it's just something to keep the defense honest.
Yep.
I would take it's minus 115. I wouldn't even touch that. There's no winning or losing for the juice that you're going to pay there. You'd have to be really confident one way or the other. But the touchdowns at plus 100, even money, I'll take that all day long.
And you did mention Matthew Golden, who's a guy that could have really easily been on this list, but he was just like not utilized very well when Watson and Reed were both out, and that scares the hell out of me. I mean, Reed, Watson, and Kraft were all out.
I will say this: how many rookie wideouts arrive in year one? You're learning. I think he was overdrafted. I do. But he started to come on. He had a game there. He had a game against Chicago, lit him up. You got to learn the playbook. That's not a position where you just arrive, in my opinion. You got to know when to block. You got to learn all the routes. It's a way different offense than what Sark runs down there with that orbit play action nonsense. Yep. You're learning an NFL offense. And you just got guys that are just, talented. And he got his opportunities later when people got hurt. We saw the flashes. Now we're going to see. He doesn't have to have – all the weight's going to be on Christian Watson to sign the extension.
Yep.
So I think
Reed did too. They both they extended both of them.
And he's wide receiver 2 or 3. It's wide receiver 3, and that's okay for now.
Yeah.
He's not Randy Moss. He's not, when wide receivers in the NFL very rarely arrive in season 1. I mean, it's just such an odd thing to happen. So I was happier that it picked up later in the season, but we'll see. We'll see.
I think over the past 4 years, it's becoming more and more common because you got like the Brian Thomas Juniors, the Malik Neighbors. You've got, I mean, Marvin Harrison didn't have that great of a rookie season, but Marvin Harrison. A lot of these first round wide receivers are really cooking here lately. You look at Justin Jefferson, you look at Jamar Chase. Over the past, 6-7 years, we've had a lot of really good rookies compared to like the last 20 or 30 years. But a lot of fans, whenever you draft a receiver in the first round now, not to hate on the Packers draft pick, but I was not a big fan of Golden at all. I loved Luther Burden a lot more. Obviously Travis Hunter I thought was really, really good. Ted McMillan, they weren't really in the race to get those because of where they were picking in the draft, but that could have been an easy Luther Burden. And I know why they didn't do it, because Jaden Reed's basically the same player. Maybe not as good, but it's still the same player, so I don't think it would make sense for him to go to the Packers. But I like it. I like his position more now because there's no Dontavian Wicks. There's no Romeo Doubs. Maybe they just throw Golden at the Z and just see how he does. I just wasn't really that impressed. He can develop. I mean, this offense, super young. This roster's still super young, and we've seen him develop other wide receivers like Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks. We'll just have to see. I don't really feel good about Golden this year, but let's talk about Torrey Horton, which you had said something about Torrey Horton, and I was like, yep, that's a really good pick, because who's there in Seattle right now? You've got JSN, and I mean, Cooper Kupp was like, But when Torrey Horton was healthy last year, he was really showing some great skills on the football field. This is one of your picks. I'll let you speak to more about Torrey Horton.
I think that, Seattle's defense obviously won them the Super Bowl, and that's clear and obvious in their running game. But when he was out there, he had flashes of greatness, and, was a rookie that had rookie-like season, but can absolutely torch a team. JSN got all those targets, I'm convinced, because Torrey Horton's absence. The offense should be a little bit more open with him coming back. Seattle's, I think they take a step back this season. I mean, letting Kenneth Walker go, and the Seahawks really lucked out not playing the Broncos in the Super Bowl. I'm convinced of that. I think Denver would have gave him a hell of a game. But I like what he does. I like his speed. Excuse me. Went to a mid-tier school, Colorado State, but absolutely tore it up. Great player. Good pick for the Seahawks. We'll see what they do with him. We'll just see what they do with him. We'll see. There's film on these guys now. After you're, win the Super Bowl, you got to maintain it. And we just don't know the vibe. Seattle's got brand new ownership. They just sold the team to a 49ers executive. We're going to see what they're all about. But I like the talent here a lot. I think he's he was really underdrafted. And it was a home run draft for the Seahawks. Take him.
Yeah, I thought the 5th round value that they got with Torrey Horton was insane. He's a small school guy. I think if he wouldn't have gotten hurt, he tore, I want to say, his ACL, and then he declared anyways. If he wouldn't have tore his ACL relatively early on in the season, he would have been probably a 2nd or a 3rd round pick, because he was that good. He's got great yak ability, pretty solid size. And you saw that in the season last year. 13 catches, 5 touchdowns last year. 5 touchdowns on 13 catches. He was kind of like the Seahawks' Isaac TeSlaa. He could also be a guy that's on this list easily. But Torrey Horton's a sleeper pick. Not a lot of people are talking about him. And there's a wide receiver 2 spot open up with the Seattle Seahawks. Now, for his lines, there's not much going on. I could see easy 500-600 yard season if he comes back from that shin injury pretty well. So I do enjoy some Torrey Horton. I like him a lot. Where do you see him in terms of stat lines? I know it's a little bit unpredictable because we don't know where he fits into this offense. Does Cooper Kupp still have a predominant role? We don't know. But if you had to gauge it, where would you think this guy might finish this year in terms of statistics?
I think he would get 700 yards, 6 touchdowns, 50 grabs, 40 grabs, 45 grabs. I just, like you said, we don't know. Yeah. The Seahawks also drafted another receiver that I liked in Ricky White, who was a UNLV guy. Like, I thought the Seahawks got 2 steals with their wideouts last year.
I think he went undrafted, Ricky White.
Are you sure? Well, either way, that was, I think, another good pickup for them. But we'll just go on to the next because there's just not a lot when it players come off an injury.
7th round pick. Yeah, I liked Ricky White as well. His film kind of surprised me a little bit whenever I was going through that draft class. But next up is a guy, if you guys want to go to my channel, the most recent video I've uploaded is an RJ Harvey video, which people are really negative about RJ Harvey or really positive about RJ Harvey. He's a really polarizing player, and there's a lot to go on. I mean, he led all rookies in touchdowns last year. He looked super explosive. His vision was pretty shitty early on in the season, not going to lie. But then it got better and better as the season went on. And that's one thing I'm betting on. I don't think Coleman is going to be a big threat to him. I think he might take some goal line stuff away. But RJ Harvey, I believe in the talent, the athleticism. I mean, he catches balls out of the backfield like nobody's business. Really good with the ball in his hands. I think RJ Harvey could finish as a low-end RB1, maybe a high-end RB2. I think that's his ceiling because he's really good at finding the end zone. And when he gets the ball in his hands, he is something serious.
They put a lot of draft capital on, but there's also a reason when you're 25 years old and you're still playing running back in college football, I'm going to pump the brakes. I mean, it's just, and again, that was his rookie season last year. It's easy for rookies. Not, I won't say easy, but like at that position to have a great rookie season. And then we're just going to see if you do it again. I mean, they did get rid of Javonte Williams for him, and Javonte went down there to Dallas and had a great season. So they're going to feed him the football. But I think he's mid-tier running back. I don't think that he goes I think I could probably whip off 10 running backs better than him off the top of my head. So you're on a higher upside on RJ Harvey than I am. I think you're going to see some regression here. I think you're going to see some regression from the Broncos overall.
Well, we do have to talk about J.K. Dobbins, but I don't think J.K. Dobbins is a threat. I've said it for like 5 years in a row now. He plays good football for like 4 or 5 weeks, tears something significant in his body, and is out for the season. He's done that every single year, except for last year. He played like 10 games and then tore his entire body apart. He can't keep coming back from Achilles tears and ACL tears. He just can't keep doing it, okay? J.K. Dobbins cannot run out there made out of 60% metal. So I like RJ Harvey, and with them investing so highly, a 3rd-round pick, I believe, in Jonah Coleman, I think J.K. Dobbins is a guy that they're just going to try to put on a snap count because I thought Jaleel McLaughlin was fine. But we'll go ahead and move on to the lines, which, look at that. I mean, these lines are heavily favoring he's going to play. So let me go ahead and tell you his lines last year. 540 rushing yards, 7 touchdowns, and 356 receiving yards, 47 receptions, which is quite remarkable. I don't know how you feel about any of these lines. I'd probably stay away from the rushing yards one. Touchdowns are so volatile, especially with Jonah Coleman being probably the guy that's going to be on the goal line. I do like the receiving yards line, though. He is the best receiver out of this backfield easily.
Well, I would say that all these lines are so heavily juiced that I would stay away from it. And Vegas is telling you that they're saying stake your claim, right? Minus 120 on the under tells you that they don't think he's going to get 7 touchdowns on the rushing yards. So based on that alone, I think if I had to pick of these 3, I would take the over on those rushing yards just because of the value on those. I don't know where he's going to be as far as rushing. I would say that that's probably accurate. I'd probably lean a little bit towards the under because I think it's a split backfield there as well. 300 receiving yards. Again, that's such a receiving yards for running backs are really hard for me to want to place money on unless you're somebody like Rachaad White or who's definitely going to get a lot of looks in the backfield. Whoever's the running backs in Carolina based on Canales' love for the check down. So I would take the under on the receiving, the under on the touchdowns, the over on the touchdowns, and probably the under on the rushing yards here.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to a player I love a lot in Josh Downs. He's just a guy that I've loved his skill set for multiple years now, and he just hasn't really had a chance to pop off. He's kind of like in that Jaden Reed territory where he's getting about 800 yards and about 5-6 touchdowns every year, except Jaden Reed's getting a little bit more because of those jet touch passes and stuff like that you mentioned earlier. I think he's fully healthy this year. And with Michael Pittman gone, who was a big-time contributor in this offense, and with Daniel Jones likely fully healthy coming into the year, I think Josh Downs has a chance to be wide receiver one in this offense. I don't like Alec Pierce as a wide receiver one option just because he's so volatile with just, is he going to catch a 50-yard touchdown or not catch a 50-yard touchdown? That's what he's been for the past 2 years. I like Josh Downs a lot. I'm buying into him a lot. I bought into him a lot last year. Didn't really work out for me just because the offense was just once Daniel Jones got hurt. But how do you feel about Josh Downs? How do you feel about this Colts offense coming into 2026 as well?
Well, if Daniel Jones is in there, the Colts are a wagon. I mean, they were bludgeoning everybody that they played.
Yeah.
They got a great running back. They got a tight end that they can have versatile stuff with. Michael Pittman is gone, so there's really nobody in his way. They re-signed Alec Pierce to an insane amount of money, but they got to believe in something there. Maybe it's just they're trying to sell tickets because he is a Purdue guy, and Indianapolis is just a stone's throw from West Lafayette. But I think that I think he's gonna have a career year this year. I think the Colts are trending. They're trending a little bit better. I mean, it just was unfortunate, even though it was thoroughly enjoyable to see Phillip Rivers go out there and absolutely just do what he did. Because when you a good old boy from Alabama, boy, you can go out there and throw that rock until you done. So plus he's got 47 kids and the insurance for the next 5 years. So, but he didn't go out there. Actually, he didn't stink it up. Rivers actually did not stink it up when he went out there. You can also tell he's 47. So
I want to say he threw 4,000 yards at like 42 years old. Like the time before he started for the Colts. He had another season where he started for the Colts and actually did pretty well. But I agree. I think Josh Downs can have a pretty solid year. 775 receiving yards. He's hit that line 2 out of the past 3 years. 6.5 receiving touchdowns, which he hasn't ever had more than 5. 64.5 receptions, which he's cleared every year but last year. How do you feel about these lines? One of them's pretty skewed one way, but I like at least the reception side. I think I
like over on all of them.
I'm
going to go career year here. I'm going to go over on all of them. Receptions, touchdowns, receiving yards. I think it's 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, 75 grabs.
Dude, that would make me so happy because I am a Josh Downs stan. I did a film breakdown on him a long time ago as well. He's just a great player. He's got a unique skill set too. Just so quick. Just quick. That's the one word I'll use. It's so hard to guard him in the slot. I love me some Josh Downs. Contract year too for Josh Downs. But now probably the most random name on the list that you dropped is Greg Dulcich for the Miami Dolphins. What a name to throw out here. I like Greg Dulcich. I think he offers some value at the tight end position. There's not really a guy there right now. So what's your mindset? Is that it?
This is a receiving guy who I felt didn't get a fair shake in Denver and then got injured. I think that this is the biggest sleeper. This is a real sleeper in your drafts. This is a guy you can get on tight end, throw him on the bench if you find somebody better, or if you just want to play, what do they like to do? Zero RB. If you want to go zero TE, this would be your guy. Because tight end is a position, unless you're in a premium league. I think that Dulcich can have a year that's going to shock a lot of people. Every year we see a player come out from the abyss. I think he's a fantastic tight end. I think he's going to be Malik Willis's number one option down there. Because, I mean, they're going to either give the ball to Achane and then there's a whole lot of nothing. And I think you're going to see a lot of short passes to him. He's going to be your red zone target. This is absolutely, I'm preaching the gospel on Dulcich. I've always liked him. I think that he's going to get the spot there. And wasn't he with the Giants? He had a couple, there were moments. It's just, this is an opportunity for him. There's nobody behind him. There's zero expectations. I think Miami's going to be picking first in the draft next year. I think they're going to be worse than the Cardinals. Give me Dulcich to have a nice, quiet season for a very lousy football team.
Yeah, I mean, he played last year, started 3 games, 300 yards, 1 touchdown last year.
So in
Hasn't
3
really
games,
done much else.
in 3 games, 300 yards, 3 games.
Well, 3 starts. He's probably
Oh,
we'll
I see.
But I will say there are some players. This is probably the most fun team to just throw darts at because somebody is going to do something. This guy could be Greg Dulcich. This could be Kevin Coleman, Chris Bell, who I think is the favorite in my opinion. Chris Bell is really talented. Theo Weiss, 2 Missouri wide receivers here. Malik Washington, I don't think's the guy. He's been there for multiple years now and just hasn't done anything. It's Chris Bell, Kevin Coleman. I think those are my 2 favorites. And then you've got, Greg Dulcich and nothing. And I mean nothing behind Greg Dulcich at tight end. So it just all depends on how well is this offense going to function with Malik Willis, because he looked great with the Packers when he started. But the Packers also have people that play football starting on their offense. So we're going to have to see how the Dolphins shake up. But obviously, very obviously, there's no
over.
Whatever they are, over.
Whatever they are, over.
I'm going to say probably 430, 450 is probably what the line's going to be. Do you feel comfortable hitting the over on something like that?
500 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns, 50 receptions. Just 5s all across the board.
5s all across the board, yeah.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I could see it, man. I mean, Dulcich just had that athletic profile, so we'll go ahead and move on.
I do hot takes occasionally like this, but I believe my hot takes. Like, I don't just say it for the sake of argument. I'm not just going to throw a random Dolphins player out for our show just because I want to make some noise or anything along those lines. I do believe in who he is as a player, and I think he's going to have plenty of opportunity. And I've seen what Malik Willis is able to do, but I don't think that this is going to be more than a 2-read offense that Jeff Hafley is going to be doing down there. He's going to be working relentlessly to try and fix the defensive side of the ball. The Dolphins are an absolute train wreck. They're really trending down, but they did sign a quarterback. It's not the longest term deal, but it's something. He's a QB that you want to stash. You like to have 3 quarterbacks in Dynasty. That's the one guy you want. There's plenty of rushing upside. He runs hard. He's got a cannon. And he's got the experience now. Like, he started in Tennessee. He started in Green Bay. He knows how to play football. He's with a coach that coached with him in Green Bay. I think that you're going to see some flashes of things, but I think Dulcich is going to be like just the surprise tight end. You just go, if with your last pick in the draft, if he's still there, go get Greg Dulcich.
Yeah, and I mean, he's relatively young, I think.
Yeah.
Let me see. He's 26. I mean, if he shows out there, somebody's going to be successful. Somebody's got to be successful out of this wide receiver room or this tight end room. It's going to be somebody. And Dulcich, I mean, there's no competition there. He's going to be out there. So he's probably got a good bet. But now I'm going to talk about one of your I hope he's one of your favorite Crimson Tide players of all time, because he was ridiculous when he won the Heisman. I mean, ridiculous.
Well,
the Slim Reaper.
Not only that, he, caught that ball from Tua to win the championship against Georgia. Yeah. It's so funny because Georgia fans on the internet, they love to show that Kelee Ringo pick 6 to get their first championship off Bryce Young because it widened the margin by 2 touchdowns. But they don't like to talk about 2nd and 26. They don't like to talk about the multiple chokes in the SEC championship. They don't like to talk about Ryan Williams cooking them, and they don't like to talk about the only team to go into Athens and win there in the last 7 years. They don't like to talk, but they like to show that Kelee Ringo highlight. They like to show that. It's like Auburn fans like to show that kick 6, but you ain't got much else. The Alabama disrespect's been kind of wild this week. It's just, we're not talking about the Crimson Tide, but it's just been out of control. I've seen people on TikTok putting their own personal rankings up. They'll have it on the background. They've got Alabama 15 and 16. It's just like, man, how much crack are you smoking, pal? 15?
They just keep losing talent, man. I mean, they've always been a team with Saban to just keep recruiting well. And I think players still want to go to the Crimson Tide because it's the Crimson Tide. But people are starting to feel like, I guess, the talent is not catching up to how much you guys are losing? Because y'all
I
keep
would
having
say-
people go to the draft over and over and over again.
I would say two things, right? The kind of college football that Nick Saban coached and the kind of coaching that it is now, even in just his third season out of college football coaching, is just drastically different. It's drastically different. When DeBoer took that team over, he had 50 players leaving the portal. 50. And those were elite players. They were players that were 4 and 5 stars that left. Julian Sayin left. Kalen Downs left. Just those two guys alone leaving your program would decimate anybody else. And they still were one game away from making the playoff. You know what I mean? There was no grace given. And then these talking heads like Stephen A. Smith and like yesterday with Feinbaum saying Alabama fans are going to fire. They're not going to fire him. This year, I'm really looking forward to it because there's no Saban fingerprints on this team. We don't know who's playing quarterback, but by God, that secondary is absolutely the best in college football. There's zero doubt that secondary is going to make it to where there's going to be a ton of coverage sacks. I can just see it now. I think that Alabama, Georgia, and Texas are your 3 candidates for the SEC championship. But we'll do our college football preview later. But they're going to be a pleasant surprise that are going to piss people off. I mean, they act like this team fell off a cliff last year. The first year DeBoer was there, they had a winning season, missed the playoffs. But last year, they went into Athens and beat Georgia. Yes, they lost to Florida State in the opener. Played in the SEC championship game. I guess that don't mean nothing. Lane Kiffin's never done that. And then they go on the road to Oklahoma, a team that beat them at home, and then they go win a road playoff game. But then they got decimated by Indiana, and that's all people do. They just think of the last 1 or 2 games, and they think that's a whole snapshot of the whole season. It's kind of like Caleb Williams. All we see is that Packers game. We don't see a whole lot of nothing else. We don't talk about the Rams game. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, okay, you've got selective things. So that's my Alabama tangent on this. But as far as Smitty goes, A.J. Brown's out the door.
Yeah,
he's just gets plays. He just gets open. He's fast. He's tough to guard. He's done better in the NFL than I thought he would. I will say that. Small frame, I wasn't sure. Like, he's so small. And it's not a knock on his ability. I mean, you don't go for 200 yards in the first half against Ohio State in the national championship and win a Heisman at that position.
Yeah.
I just didn't know. You know, and I didn't know with Jalen Hurts as quarterback, how's it going to play out for him in the league? But I think the Eagles did the right thing getting rid of A.J. Brown, who had it. And Devontae Smith is not anything like him. You know, Slim Reaper, like you said, great player, going to have an electric season again. I think that Jalen Hurts has been getting abused at that position way too hard because Philadelphia runs a tush push. But to me, quarterback isn't just about statistics. It's about mentals, and it's about your ability to avoid turnovers. That's why I think Aaron Rodgers is the greatest to ever do it. But I think Devontae Smith's going to have a good season.
Yeah, and, you know, that's the biggest thing. I think A.J. Brown's out the door, and you look at his receiving lines. I mean, 1,025 yards. He hasn't done that since 2023. 5.5 receiving touchdowns, which he has hit that multiple times. The receptions, he had the second most targets of his entire career last year with A.J. Brown there the majority of the year. I think Devonta Smith, you know, obviously you got Mekhi Lemon there, who I loved a lot. He was my wide receiver 1, basically, in the whole class. I thought Mekhi Lemon was amazing. I think that's going to take a minute to get that chemistry between Hurts and Mekhi Lemon. I think Devonta Smith will be the one guy in this offense that's really getting targeted consistently every week. I think Mekhi Lemon is the second coming of Amon-Ra St. Brown, but I think Devonta Smith is more of the wide receiver that Hurts is going to like, at least for over the first half of the season. I think he hits around 1,100, 1,200 receiving yards, and Mekhi Lemon has an 806 touchdown season.
Well, yeah, 1,000 yards. I think he does over on both of those. That's why they're the chalks. But I wouldn't bet those at minus 120. That's not my favorite thing to bet. But I would take that both times. I think both those overs hit.
Sweet. Well, let's go ahead and look at Carson Beck, which is a guy both of us have talked about ad nauseum, really. Now, I will say I did see a notification on my phone.
Uh-oh. Hold on a second.
hour-
Hold on a second, folks. We got some breaking news. Bobby's got a notification, Bobby. Let's just come in with some of these breaking news here. Hold on one second. Got a little explosion there. What's your notification, sir?
So it looks like Jacoby Brissett showed up for training camp about an hour before we started this. So it looks like he's at least participating and trying to not continue his holdout. I know yesterday I heard a little bit of insider information that they're trying to work with him to get that contract going. If that is the case, Carson Beck is a guy that's might not get his shot till halfway through the season. I don't know. I think Jacoby Brissett's wanting at least $20 million a year. I don't know if the Cardinals are going to do that. We'll see. They might just let him hold out. What do you think about this quarterback issue that the Cardinals have? And do you think that Jacoby Brissett ends up starting, over half the season? He looked great last year, but is that just a flash in the pan for Brissett because he's always been kind of average as a backup?
We don't know. New head coach. It's just a tumultuous situation down here. Every Cardinals fan that I know, and I live by a bunch of them, they're so sick of Bidwell. They're so sick of the facilities. They're so sick of it. They're just tired. They just don't believe in this team. But I did like this pick, and I like their GM. It just hasn't worked out. I've liked how he's drafted the roster.
Me too.
I don't think it's a horrific roster. I really think last year that loss to the Titans just put it to rest. You had that big lead on them, and you lose to the worst team at home with some fumbles and some crazy kicks and all that stuff. The goofiest loss of the year. You look like an ass clown out there. And I think that's when Gannon was like, just not ready to be a head coach. I think they got the right coach there. But I don't know if you're going to walk on eggshells or if you're just going to go in there and make a decision. If it was me, this is second round capital here. I don't even know. I mean, I just would have to wait it out. I think it's okay if Beck holds a clipboard for a season. I mean, they don't have terrible players on the offensive line. They got Paris Johnson, who's an elite tackle. They're not drafting stupidly. That's the thing about the Cardinals. They're not drafting stupid players.
I love their drafts over the past 2 years.
Yeah. It's what I'm saying. Like, I like their GM, but I think that they did the right thing by getting rid of Gannon. He was just too off the wall to be a head coach. Now he's running the defense in Green Bay, and that might be there's coaches that are meant to be coordinators, and he might be one of them, just like Josh McDaniels. He's meant to be an offensive coordinator. He's not meant to run a football team.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you saw see the clip of Jim Harbaugh today or John Harbaugh with the Giants. Boy, did that look depressing. Man,
really?
When after the show, you got to take a look. Like, it just he looked like Jonathan Gannon in front of that team. The players did not look excited, nothing. Like, it looked like he was definitely out of touch, and it might be a train wreck.
I mean, they have the talent on that team as well. Obviously, Carson Beck, we don't even know if he's starting at any point throughout this year, so the betting lines are not there at all. I don't know. Jacoby Brissett played more than acceptable when he played last year. He just didn't win any games. So I think the worse the season goes, if it just depends on if the Cardinals win games or if they don't win games. If they don't win games, you're going to see Carson Beck out there. Now, it just depends. He was a third-round pick, Carson Beck was. That's enough draft capital to where I'd say throw him out there. It could be a Dak Prescott type of situation where the team sucks and you just throw him out there, or there's an injury. It just depends. I like Carson Beck. He's very efficient. So We'll see. I don't know in terms of what his yards would look like. He's obviously got a great team around him with Jeremiah Love, Tyler Algier, look at these four running backs. Jeremiah Love, great talent. Tyler Algier, who I've been high on forever as a RB2, one of the best RB2s in the league, in my opinion. James Conner, who just had 1,000 yards a couple years ago. And Trey Benson, who they took in the third round in 2023. So all of those guys super talented. One of the best running back rooms, in my opinion, in the NFL. And then you've got Marvin Harrison, Michael Wilson, Kendrick Bourne, who's decent as a wide receiver 3, Trey McBride. Obviously, you've got a decent offensive line as well. I think there's a lot to work with.
Yep. You called it. They're going to win the division.
That's the hot take of the summer, man.
That's hotter than anything I put out there for sure.
But I want to talk about Parker Washington now. Parker Washington was on a capital T tear last year.
Yes.
I mean, he was going wild. And that's with a healthy Brian Thomas Jr. He had he had 847 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns. But once he started getting the ball, it was ridiculous. I mean, he ranked 13th in yards after catch, 19.1 PPR points when he led that team with 27% target share. I mean, he was going absolutely ballistic. In the last 3 weeks of the season, I mean, just completely just started going buck wild. I think he can continue that. Travis Hunter does worry me a little bit. Brian Thomas Jr., surprisingly, not so much. I don't know. He could be a trade candidate before the trade deadline, depending on how the season goes. I don't know. I like Parker Washington a lot. He showed a lot of really good skill sets this past season. How do you feel about Parker Washington and this Jaguars receiving room?
I think he's got the potential to be a top 5 wideout in the league. I think he could be up there with Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and Nico Collins. And I think that this is going to be an all-time season for him. I think he's going to be top 10, definitely. Top 5 wouldn't shock me. Let's put it that way.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, once he started getting them targets, man, he's really made the most of it. I mean, he didn't have that many incompletions when he was targeted. It's just so much stuff just popped off the film for me when I was watching the Jaguars. I didn't watch a lot of Jaguars games, but when he started getting the ball, I was like, I need to check this guy out. And you're going to see that in the receiving lines. Look at that. 725.5 receiving yards. Don't have the odds here, but 4.5 receiving touchdowns. Don't know what the line's going to be for the receptions, but I love this. I mean, this is a guy that smashed both of these, and he wasn't even a full-time receiver most of the year. So I love this. I think Trevor Lawrence is locked in on this guy, and I mean, I think this is a big-time season for Parker Washington. I don't know if it's a long-time season, but I think he could easily be a top 18 wide receiver this year.
1,212 touchdowns.
Ooh.
I'm going spice on this full all in.
We're thinking like an Amon-Ra season, huh? That would be cool.
I'm standing by what I said. Top 10 for sure. Definitely, or top 10 is yes. A top 5 is possible.
Parker, I mean, he really impressed, man. But we'll go ahead and move on to one of your guys.
It's my guy.
Tua Tagovailoa, former Crimson Tide. I think he beats out. I think it's pretty easily he's the best quarterback on this roster. He's had some really tough goes, especially with Miami, with all the concussions, some of the inconsistencies, but he's shown flashes of being a really, really solid pocket quarterback, and the Falcons have all the talent in the world to pair with him. I think Tua is the perfect guy for this offense. Michael Penix, I was never a big believer in. Even in college, I wasn't the biggest fan of. I don't know why he was a first-round pick. That blows my mind. But Tua, love what he can do with the accuracy. Obviously, the arm's not killer, but I think he's the perfect guy for this offense for now.
You don't need – I don't like the concept that you have to just have this cannon of an arm to be a great quarterback. 95% of the NFL is inside 20 yards. It just is. It's constant short throws or medium throws with the occasional bomb. Because if it's all about arm strength, Joe Milton would be QB1. It's just simple as. It's just simple as. Tua's ability to hit players in stride is just one of the best things I've ever seen. I can't believe how polarizing he was to so many people. The problem with him has just been injuries. He hurt his hip again in that Mississippi State game back in college. Goes pro anyway. Starts curdling up and doing spiders with the concussions are a big problem for him.
Yeah.
But I do think that he's got the right mindset. Again, this is somebody who doesn't act crazy, who's married, who's in touch, and I think he knows that he's got an opportunity here. I think he knows there's an opportunity. I think Penix has already kind of showed his hand, and he's got those bad knees. And the Falcons, I think that ship has ironically sailed as much as, the Falcons have whiffed on quarterbacks with, not giving Kirk Cousins the opportunity, which they should have. And then he got hurt, and just Penix is just a train wreck too, has been to the playoffs with the Miami Dolphins team. I like the opportunities with London. He's got the great Robinson brothers back there. He's got Kyle Pitts back there. After that, it kind of goes down a little bit. I mean, isn't Jahan Dotson your wide receiver too? I don't know about that, but we're just going to see. We don't know what the expectations are. This is a potential. Man, it's really hard to gauge what the Falcons are going to do, but I don't think that he's going to be atrocious. I just can't. I'll never quit him.
He's been consistent. Now, I will say he does say some strange things sometimes in the media. Like he is a little off, and I think the concussions have beat him up a little bit. But Bijan, obviously, safety net with the in the flat. Drake London, amazing. Zachariah Branch, I want everybody to listen to me now. Zachariah Branch is a problem, and I will not be even remotely surprised if he beats out Jahan Dotson and Olamide Zaccheaus for the wide receiver 2 job. Zachariah Branch is ridiculous. He's very talented, highly touted recruit in high school. There's a reason for that. But let's go ahead and look at the lines. Wow, there's no lines for Tua either because we don't know who's starting. And sportsbooks aren't going to be putting lines up with uncertainty that can change in an instant. I do think Tua beats out the job. I think we could see a 4,000 yards, 26 touchdown, 10 pick season. I think that's what Tua's got. I think that's the type of season that you can expect from Tua. I'm not super all in on him just because he's got to throw so many touchdowns and be super efficient to be fantasy relevant just because he cannot run the ball. I don't want him to run the ball. I don't want him to because every time he runs the ball, for some reason, he wants to just headbutt people and try to kill himself. I need him to stay in the pocket, get the ball out quickly to Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, these Zachariah Branch, who's great yak ability. I just need him to do that and not die because I do like the Falcons.
He upgrades coach. He upgrades wide receiver. He upgrades tight end by a metric mile.
For sure.
He goes into a softer division. So, I mean, the AFC East has the Jets, but they have Buffalo there. The NFC South doesn't have anybody like that that's going to boat race you. So I don't know how often the Falcons are going to be in these situations where Tua's got to force the ball. It's not his game. They're front running. He's always been a front running quarterback. You get him in rhythm early, he can really, really be good. So I got high hopes for him there. I'm hoping for the best for him.
So the last guy I want to talk about, the Giants. I know you said you had some worries about the composure and just the overall culture with the Giants. I think once the season starts kicking up, we'll see some chatter in the preseason. I think the Giants, they have all the talent in the world. We just got to get the coaching and the injuries under control. Isaiah Likely, when he got traded or when he got signed rather to the Giants, I was like, oh my goodness. We've seen flashes, so many flashes with the Ravens, especially in the Chiefs game last year or the year before last, the opener. I mean, he is just really talented, really athletic. Mark Andrews took a lot of opportunities away from him. And now, I mean, I don't think there's much of anybody in this tight end room that's going to mess with him. Theo Johnson I do like, but he's been hurt so much. I think Likely's the guy there, and I think he can have a phenomenal season just because, well, Jackson Dart likes to throw it to tight ends. I mean, he targeted Theo Johnson a decent amount when he was on the field. Obviously, Malik Neighbors is there, but I don't know when he's going to be fully healthy at all. So I like Isaiah Likely here. I think he's going to be a big-time weapon in this offense, and I'm excited to see what the Giants do. I mean, like I said, they have all the talent in the world.
Don't have too much of an opinion on him. I know he was tight end too behind Mark Andrews. We're going to see what he does up there with Jackson Dart. There's plenty of upside there. I just don't have. I know it sounds a little uneducated, but I just don't see. I've seen flashes, right? So there's obviously a reason the Giants signed him, but we just got to see more. Like they're kind of an incomplete. They're like a puzzle. The Giants are a puzzle. You got a new coach, a quarterback who was hurt half the season. You don't have an electric talent at their running back. Scadaboo's been hurt. Tyrone Tracy's not the guy. They lost Wan'Dale Robinson.
Big loss.
It's just I don't know. Like, I don't know. Is he going to be their elite target? I mean, Malik Neighbors' knee is barely, it's on life support. So we're going to see. I would bet unders on everything with him.
And I don't know if there is lines for him. There aren't lines for him. I just looked at these recently just to double check. And he does not have lines yet, which is kind of strange to me. I guess because there's so much uncertainty whether Malik is going to play at any point, before midseason. There's just a lot of uncertainty with this team. I think Isaiah Likely could easily be an 800-yard guy, kind of like if you remember Eric Ebron. I think he could have like a similar season like Eric Ebron. He's just not as big as Eric Ebron. But I do like Isaiah Likely a lot. And I think Isaiah Likely can do a lot of really good things in this offense. He's never received more than 60 targets in a season. Dart loves his tight ends, so pause. But I think Isaiah Likely can get it done here for the Giants.
Listen to you talk about an Ole Miss quarterback wearing a Bulldog shirt. Proud of you.
Hey, I wasn't a big fan of Dart at all, and I don't know what his longevity looks like at all, just because he likes to headbutt defensive linemen. But we'll see. I mean, he played decent last year. Yeah. We just need to see consistency and have him not check out of the game every week because he's got a concussion. That's the biggest thing with him. That was my biggest concern with him because he had some of the prettiest throws on film of any quarterback in that draft class, and I'll stand by that.
I mean, Lane Kiffin players, what are they going to do at that level? You just got to wait and see because Lane Kiffin runs a very collegiate offense. God, I can't wait till we do our LSU preview. It's going to be my favorite one.
But that's everything I got. That's all the lines I have. That's 20 players I feel really strongly about a lot of my stuff.
I feel like you missed one. Let me see. Let me double check our text because I'm almost certain that I sent you one more that I was waiting to talk about.
Was it Wicks?
It was.
Oh, okay. Well, let's talk about a little Dontavian Wicks real quick.
We don't got to put up a graphic, though, but I just thought that he was going to be – we saw flashes in Green Bay with Dontavian Wicks, what he's able to do. I really, really thought he had the potential to be wide receiver 2 in that offense. I liked him better than Jaden Reed. I loved him way more than Romeo Doubs. When he's on, he just doesn't drop the football. Last year, he dropped the football, surprisingly. I think it was a smart pick for Philadelphia. They had to make a decision. And I think they could have by letting Dobbs go, I thought Wicks was going to stay on the roster. And then you got 4 good receivers, but they decided to trade him. So there must have been something there that LaFleur didn't like. I mean, I thought him falling to the 5th round was one of the biggest drop falls, almost just a tragedy because he's just so big and just gets open, separation, explosiveness. Everything about Dontavian Wicks' game is just – I was sad to see him go, man. I was sad to see him go.
Yeah. With Dontavian Wicks, I'm just – really bought into Devonta Smith and Mekhi Lemon. Both of those guys I'm just in love with. And Dontavian Wicks is more of like that X type of receiver. I guess they bring him in to kind of replace that A.J. Brown type of role, which, again, I just don't like X receivers. I love the catch frame of Dontavian Wicks. I like his separation ability as well as underrated, but it's just the two guys, Jalen Hurts doesn't like to throw down the field all that much, and I think they may have signed Dontavian Wicks to be the sacrificial X, and that's just a waste of his talent. But, Philadelphia, that offense is just so clunky. So I don't know. I hope that Dontavian Wicks can break out, but it's just a weird role. It just depends on where they play him.
Bobby, it's almost time for our SEC previews.
Yeah.
I think we got to start those maybe next week.
Let's get them in there. I was thinking we should bring in another person. We were talking about that earlier. So
we'll figure that out, but we got to figure out just to make sure we get the SEC stuff done before kickoff. So the SEC preview starts either next week or 2 weeks. But do you have anything that you want to plug or promote within the closing minutes here? We've been on for almost 2 hours. We have 10 viewers. I want to thank all 10 of you for tuning into Cover 2 Cash.
yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I want to say I know some of the people that are watching are some of my people. I want to go ahead and say thank you guys for the support. Over since I've been back, I mean, I've got 3 videos now that are in like my top 10 viewed videos of all time. I've got 2 of my highest viewed videos over the past month. So love that. A lot of success over the past month. I appreciate that. And before this weekend is over, I'll be putting out a Saquon Barkley film breakdown because a lot of people are kind of on the fence about him. Is he washed? Is he going to ever replicate what he did in 2024? I'll be going over all of that. So if you're interested in seeing some Saquon Barkley film, that'll be out in the next couple days.
That's the channel right there, folks. Go check his channel out. Go see his stuff. Anything you want to do with Fantasy Film Breakdown, that is the channel to go to. So thank you guys for tuning in on Bobby's behalf. We will definitely be back next Wednesday at 6 o'clock to be determined what the subject matter will be. We might bring on a third person for the first time in some while. Also, I want to take a shout out to Steven Garcia, who has been battling cancer. Just hope that he keeps fighting it. Oh, yeah. It's stage 4, so he's just been fighting it. Go check him out on X. Even his rivals at Clemson have been reaching out to obviously help him. It's way bigger than football, so I've texted him, and he's hanging in there. He's doing strong, but you got to make sure you take care of yourself. And like I said, tomorrow, tomorrow, winnable.com/Justin Paul Sports. I'll have my CFL picks up for the week. 2 weeks ago, went 4-0. Last week, went 2-2. I do watch the CFL. I am a degenerate when it comes to football. And I've got an NFL package coming up. An NFL package, a college football package, and college basketball package. They're all going to be reasonably priced. I've sent out my flyers. They've got another week to join. Otherwise, there will be only a few discounts left. But you got to subscribe. It's free. I got free picks that I put up there all the time, and I've got my paid ones. So winnable.com/Justin Paul Sports. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to sign off for the week. I know Bobby's got some children that probably need some bedtime. And it's getting late out here on the West Coast. So thank you so much, and we'll see y'all next time. Roll Tide.